Hi, I'm Ollie. Welcome to Oxford Online English. In this lesson, you can learn how to answer IELTS Academic Writing Task 1 questions.
In Task 1 of the Academic IELTS Writing Exam, you have to summarize and describe the information given to you in some kind of chart. You might have to summarize and describe a pie chart, a line graph, a bar chart, a table, a diagram, or even a map.
Are you watching on YouTube? If so, you can find a link to our website in the video description. The lesson page on our website includes the task as well as a model answer. We recommend watching the video on our website so you can refer to the task and the model answer while you watch.
One more thing. Do you want to watch this video with subtitles? You can. Just click the CC button in the bottom right of your video player.
In this lesson, you'll see a sample IELTS Academic Writing Task 1 question. You can learn how to approach these questions and write your own answer. You'll also see some useful tips to help you improve your IELTS writing score.
Let's start by looking at our sample question. So what should you do first?
With all IELTS writing, you need to organize your ideas before you start. For a chart, such as this one, think about how to connect the data. Often, IELTS Academic Task 1 questions contain lots of data.
Many students try to present every piece of information, like a big list. But this is a mistake. Do you know why? If you do this, your writing will probably be too long and repetitive. You also won't have much progression in your writing, which is needed for C&C scores of 6 or higher. So, you need to connect and group the data. But how?
There's no general rule here, but here's a good starting point. Look for similarities and contrasts. In this question, you should look for similarities and contrasts both within each chart and between the two charts. Think about it now. Look at the charts and try to find similarities and contrasts in the data. You can see the full-size chart on the web page for this lesson. Don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the video description. Pause the video and do it now. Ready? Here are some ideas.
In the first chart, the proportions for living with flatmates and living with parents are similar. And they're much larger than the other two segments, which are similar to each other. In the second chart, the proportions for living with flatmates and living alone are similar. Living with a partner or a spouse is much larger than all the other groups. Between the two charts, the proportions for living alone are very similar. The other segments are all quite different, especially living with a partner or spouse. Did you get these ideas? Or did you have different ideas for similarities and contrasts?
There's more than one way to do this, but you should think about this point before you start writing. Try to make connections in your head and put the data you're given into groups. This will help you to link the data when you write, which is necessary for higher scores. What else should you do before you start writing?
1. For a chart, check whether it shows figures, percentages, or a mix. You need different language to talk about these things. If the chart shows figures, you'll need to talk about numbers, figures, amounts, and so on. If the chart shows percentages, you'll need to talk about percentages and proportions. Here, these are pie charts, so you need to talk about percentages and proportions.
2. Check if the data relates to the past, the present, the future, or a combination. Sometimes we see IELTS students who don't pay attention to this, and then they mix different verb tenses in their answer. This could hurt your score. Decide what verb tenses you need, past or present or future or mixed, and try to keep it in your head as you write. Here, the charts are from 2015, so you'll need past verb forms.
3. Ask yourself if the charts refer to a moment in time or changes over time. You'll need different language in each case. Here, the charts refer to a moment in time. This means you'll need to use the verb be a lot. You won't use verbs like increase or change like you would in some IELTS Task 1 questions.
Make sure you organize your ideas clearly before you start writing. Time spent planning will increase your chances of writing a well-structured, complete task. Now, you're ready to write. How should you start?
At the start of your answer, you should do 2 things. 1. Write a short paragraph, 1 or 2 sentences, saying what the chart shows. 2. Write another short paragraph with an overview. This doesn't have to be a separate paragraph. You can put it together with the first paragraph if you want. It doesn't matter. Let's look at these one by one.
For the first paragraph, you just need to restate the information in the instructions, but you should use paraphrase or different structures to avoid too much repetition. Look at the example from our model answer.
Often, IELTS students have problems with this. This is because they try to follow the sentence structure in the task and they just change the words. Paraphrase is useful, but you need to use other skills too.
For example, you can use different references. The task refers to 2 charts, while our model answer refers to pie charts.
You can put ideas in a different order. The task says living arrangements of 2 different age groups. But in our model answer, we switch the order of these ideas, as well as changing the words.
Sometimes paraphrase is enough. The task mentions a certain country. In our model answer, we paraphrase this to an unspecified country.
Finally, you can avoid repetition by using different levels of generality or specificity. The task refers to living arrangements. In our model answer, we list the 4 specific categories. You don't need to change everything from the task. It's fine to copy and repeat small chunks of language. Also, there are some things you have to repeat. Here, there's no way to change in 2015, so we kept it the same. One final point. It's fine to copy any text which appears on the chart itself. This means you can and should copy the categories, like living alone, living with parents, and so on.
That gives you your first paragraph. Next, you need to write the overview. You can also put your overview paragraph at the end if you want. For your overview, think about this. Imagine you want to tell someone about the chart, but you can only say 1 or 2 sentences. How would you do it?
Hopefully, this question is easier because you planned your answer and found connections between different points and looked for contrasts and similarities. You did that, didn't you? You can use that here. Your goal in the overview is to take the most important points from the chart without going into detail. If you want to try, then pause the video and write your own overview sentence. We'll show you our example in a few seconds.
Did you do it? Here's our model sentence. Our model overview is 2 sentences. An overview should be 1 or 2 sentences long. If your overview is longer, it's probable that you're either including too much detail or separating ideas which should be combined into 1 sentence.
Don't mention any specific numbers or statistics in the overview. Include big picture details only. Here, you can see 2 ideas. One was comparing the 2 charts and highlighting that the trends are different in each one. The second idea highlights the most popular living arrangement in each group.
Like many things here, there isn't just one way to write an overview. However, someone who reads your overview should have a general idea of what the charts will show. Now, let's see some skills you need to write the rest of your answer.
After your overview, you'll write one or more paragraphs explaining the contents of the chart in more detail. In this and the next two sections, you'll see common problems which IELTS students have and how you can avoid them.
First, it's easy for IELTS Task 1 answers to become repetitive. Look at a sentence. Looks fine, right? Let's add another one. Not sure if this is going well. Let's add one more. Do you see the problem?
If you write like this, your writing becomes repetitive, and it starts to feel like a list. Even if you change some of the words, like using approximately instead of about, or proportion instead of percentage, it won't solve the problem. So what should you do?
There's more than one idea here, but first, you need to try to use varied sentence structures. Look at the first sentence you saw before. Here's a challenge. How many ways can you think of to say the same idea without changing the meaning or losing any detail? Pause the video and try to write this idea in at least 3 different ways. Do it now.
Could you do it? Here are some possibilities. Around 20% of 25 through 34-year-olds lived alone. Among 25 through 34-year-olds, around 20% of people lived alone. In the 25 through 34 age group, about 20% opted to live alone. Approximately 1/5 of those aged 25 through 34 lived by themselves. What about your ideas? Were they similar to these or different?
So, what's going on here? First, you can simply change the order of the ideas, as in sentence 1.
You can use an adverbial like among 25 through 34-year-olds in sentence 2.
You can use different words to refer to the same thing. For example, instead of 25 to 34-year-olds, sentence 3 refers to the 25 to 34 age group. Instead of around 20%, sentence 4 refers to approximately 1/5.
Sentences 3 and 4 also change the words lived alone, either by adding an idea, opted to live alone in sentence 3, or by paraphrasing, lived by themselves in sentence 4. Be careful with this, because when you change the words, it's easy to change the meaning. Make sure that your words have the same meaning as whatever you're referring to. Learning to vary your sentence structure is vital if you want to get higher scores for C&C and grammar. However, there are other key skills you need. Let's look at another.
Look at 2 sentences. These sentences are fine, but if you write your whole answer like this, it will probably get overlong and repetitive. Also, to get higher grammar scores, you need to use a range of complex sentence structures. So, you should try to combine ideas where you can. For example,
you can also combine contrasting ideas using conjunctions like while, whereas, although, and so on. Here's a task for you. Look at the 2 charts and find 2 contrasting data points. Write one sentence describing them both, linking the 2 ideas with a conjunction. Pause the video and try it now. Did you do it? Let's look at one example. Among 35 to 44-year-olds, almost half lived with their partner or spouse, while a much smaller proportion lived with their parents, around 10 to 15%. Of course, there are many possibilities here.
But you should be thinking about this all the way through your answer. Look through the model answer. Try to find where we've combined 2 or more ideas in one sentence. Take note of different ways to combine similar or different ideas and try to use them in your writing. Let's move on and look at one more key skill.
Look at these 3 sentences. the number of 35 to 45-year-olds living with their parents was quite high, around 50. The percentage of 35 to 44-year-olds living with flatmates decreased dramatically compared to the younger age group. Just over a quarter of 35 to 44-year-olds lived by themselves. What do you think? Good sentences or not?
All three sentences have problems. Can you find them? You'll need to look at the charts too. Pause the video and think about it if you want.
Any ideas? Let's look together. All three sentences have issues with precision of language. We see these problems often in our students' IELTS writing.
The first sentence refers to number and around 50. This is too loose. First, the pie charts don't give you numbers in the sense of quantities. It's a percentage, so you should use the word percentage or proportion. Secondly, what does 50 mean? 50 what? If you mention a number, you should add the units, in this case, percent.
The second sentence has two problems. First, it doesn't make sense to say that the percentage decreased. Decrease, increase, and similar verbs are used when things change over time, but these pie charts refer to one moment. Secondly, dramatically suggests a very large difference or change, but in this case, the difference between the two percentages was not that great. IELTS students often try to use words like this to increase their vocabulary score. However, it's more important that your words fit the data accurately. Here's a better version of sentence 2. What about the third sentence?
Very simple. The information is incorrect. The pie chart shows that just under a quarter of this age group lived alone. When you're under time pressure, it's easy to make mistakes like this. However, mistakes with the data will limit your TA score to 6. So it's important to make sure you get every detail accurate. Don't forget to practice this further by visiting the full version of this lesson on our website. You could also try writing your own answer for this task.
Good luck if you have an IELTS exam coming up soon. Thanks for watching.
See you next time.